तो गाइस हाय वंस अगेन। आपको याद ही होगा मैं कल से। तो पहले फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल ये बताओ कि डज एनीवन हैव डाउट्स कल के सेशन से? यू कैन राइट इन द चैट बॉक्स और अनम्यूट एंड आस्क। एंड लाइक अगर किसी ने डोमिनो चैलेंज भी अटेम्प्ट करा होगा, लाइक वो जो टास्क वी गेव यू, प्लीज वंस यू हैव डन इट प्लीज सेंड इट ऑन द ग्रुप. We'll be starting like really soon in a few minutes. So till then, if any doubts, just ask.
सर
Yes.
सर इसके लाइसेंस में एक एक्सपायरेशन की डेट है, तो इसका मतलब उस डेट के बाद ये एक्सपायर हो जाएगा लाइसेंस, और उसके बाद क्या होगा फिर एक्सपायर होने के बाद?
Expiration license date क्या लिखी जा रही है?
2021-11-22।
Expiration date आ रही है ये?
यस सर, एक्टिवेशन की भी और एक्सपायरेशन की भी।
आपने कौन सा वाला वर्जन लिया था, वो पर्सनल या फिर कोई और?
सर पर्सनली लिया था, और फिर उसमें वो नेक्स्ट ऑप्शन था कि लेस देन कोई अमाउंट लिखी थी उसमें फिर।
आना तो नहीं चाहिए। अगर जो डेट लिखी आ रही है, उसके बाद अगर मतलब ऐसा आता तो नहीं है यूजुअली, पर आई डोंट थिंक ऐसा होना चाहिए क्योंकि लाइसेंस तो मतलब पर्सनल वाला फ्री फॉर यूज हो दिया होता है। तो फिर आप करते रहो अभी तो, पर आगे आपको लाइक इफ यू फेस एनी इश्यूज यू कैन इजीली आस्क ऑन द ग्रुप.
ओके सर, थैंक यू सर।
अगर ऐसा हुआ भी देन जस्ट री इंस्टॉल इट विद अ डिफरेंट आईडी, ओके? क्योंकि हो सकता है यू मे हैव बाय एक्सीडेंटली chosen a different sort of you know pack or plan which is available.
ओके सर।
यार तो मैंने वो एक्सपायरेशन वाला देखा। हाँ तो लाइक उसमें होता है, पर वो लाइक यू कैन रिन्यू इट आफ्टर जब एक्सपायर हो रहा होगा आपका।
रिन्यू वो उसी आईडी पे कर देगा या फिर दूसरी आईडी से करेगा?
उसी आईडी पे हो जाना चाहिए।
ओके सर, थैंक यू।
सर वो कल की जो प्रोजेक्ट बनाया था, जब फर्स्ट वाला फुलक्रम वाला। हेलो।
हेलो, या वन सेकंड। भाभी जो फलक्रम वाला डाउट है
हाँ जी,
बता।
बोलो क्या डाउट है? मानस पूछ रहे थे ना?
सर उस प्रोजेक्ट, हाँ यस सर।
हाँ बोलो
सर
बोलो।
उस प्रोजेक्ट में आप डायरेक्शन कैसे चेंज कर रहे थे, वो मतलब?
मूव टूल से। मतलब डायरेक्शन, कौन सी डायरेक्शन की बात
सर
कर रहे हो
मतलब
आप?
वो मूव टूल से भी ऊपर, हाँ सर वो ऊपर नीचे तो हो रही थी, बट वो
ओके।
साइड में एक वो बना हुआ था ना क्यूब, जिसपे पॉइंटर लिखे होते हैं वाई जेड और एक्स। आई
हाँ
आई गेस सीन की जो विंडो है उस पे टॉप राइट कॉर्नर पे। सर तो उससे चेंज कर रहे थे क्या?
नहीं, जो एरोज सीन विंडो में आपके पास आ रहे थे ना गेम ऑब्जेक्ट पे, उसी को होल्ड करके मूव कर रहा था मैं। बाकी
यस सर।
अगर उससे नहीं करना आपको तो आप
अच्छा,
कन्वीनियंटली अपने
ठीक
उसमें
है
जो
सर।
इंस्पेक्टर विंडो है उसमें भी डाल के कोऑर्डिनेट्स चेंज कर सकते हो पोजीशन। फाइन, ट्राई इट वंस अगेन, इफ यू
अच्छा,
स्टिल फेस एनी
ठीक है
इशू
सर।
लेट मी नो। ओके।
ठीक है सर।
ओके, तो स्टार्ट करते हैं अब। आई गेस आ ही गए हैं मोस्ट ऑफ द बच्चे। तो मैं स्क्रीन शेयर करता हूँ, और जो जहाँ हमने कल से छोड़ा था हम वहीं से कंटिन्यू कर रहे हैं। तो आज हमारा जो पहला टास्क होगा वो होगा प्लेयर मूवमेंट करना, लाइक वो उसका फॉरवर्ड मूवमेंट और लेफ्ट और राइट मूवमेंट। तो आपको स्क्रीन विजिबल हो गई होगी अब तक। मैं अपना प्रोजेक्ट खोलेगा, अगर खुला ओके। सो हमने यहाँ पे वी लेफ्ट यहाँ इस स्टेज पे कल। So we let me do a quick recap. So we added a ground for our player, which is the sphere to run on. We added a material, and we added a, and I explained to you how scripts work. Okay, I explained how start works, update works, and how you can print messages using debug.log. So let's start with the movement. Our first task is let's make our player move in the forward direction. Okay. So as you know, if you have played Subway Surfers, so the player is constantly moving in the forward direction. Okay. So we're going to do that first. So for that, what we need to do is first create a reference to a rigid body component in our player. Okay. So this component, rigid body, this is what I'm talking about. I have explained it to you yesterday. So this we're going to create a reference. I'll show you how to create a reference and what exactly a reference does. So to make a reference, we write this public and the name of the component we are referring to, and simply a variable, any basically name you can choose, but conventionally we write rigid bodies as RB. You can write anything, to be honest. So this is how you create a reference. So what a reference basically does is like it sort of assigns all the attributes or the properties of this rigid body to this RB so we can use it. So using this RB, we can access properties like use gravity, like you can see over here. So we can check or uncheck using the script as well, because we have referenced this component over here. So if we save it and come back to the editor, we can see there is this change. We can see like this the variable which we have created over here, RB, and there's this empty slot in which non-rigid body is written. So what we're going to do is click this rigid body and drag this over here to this RB, this slot. Okay. So we have successfully referenced this component to this variable RB. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to access one of these properties of this rigid body, which is known as add force. Okay, in the update function. We are using the update function because we want constantly a constant force that is being applied per frame. Okay, so this is the syntax for add force. It's pretty self-explanatory that we are adding a force basically to the rigid body or the player over here. This is, you can see there's this red error because the syntax is not yet complete. We also need to add some parameters or arguments for this function, which go like this. I'll just explain in a minute. 0, 0, 0. So I wrote 0, 0, 0, and you see that the red line has gone. So what basically this is that this is one of the way you can use add force. So this 0 represents the x coordinate. This represents the middle 0 represents the y coordinate, and the third one represents the z coordinate. So it's x, y, and z. So for example, if I write 50 over here, so the 50 units of force is being applied in forward direction of z axis, and 0 is being applied on x and 0 on y. So let's just save this, and we're going to run this. If we press play, we can see the player just flies off. It went in the forward direction really quickly. Okay, so cool. But the problem with declaring this thing or writing this add force in this way is that there's this issue which arises that if you use this same script with different devices, or for example, if in the second device we are getting low frame rates. Let's say we are getting 30 frames per second, and in this device we are getting 60 frames per second. So you may feel and see that a clear difference in the force which is being added. Even in the same computer, for example, if you run another software, so you'll get less frames, obviously. Hence, it will feel difference because the force, the amount of force per second is getting, inconsistent. Because I explained to you that update runs per frame. Okay, so the more frames you're getting, the more force will be applied. So to fix that, what we do is we multiply this value with time dot delta time. So this is a really important thing. What time dot delta time basically means is it basically returns the value of the time taken to the time which has passed since the previous frame has executed. So in a simpler way, I'll explain it to you. Like for example, if you're getting 20 frames per second, okay, so the value of this delta time will be 1 upon the number of frames, so 1 upon 20. So what is happening is this is nullifying the effect of the the irregular number of frames. So in case you get 10 frames per second, its value will be 0.1, hence it's getting nullified. So the more frames you're getting, the lower the value of this will be to nullify the effect. So you can see a clear change over here. If we save this and run this, you can see it's moving really slowly. This is because now it's just constant and irrespective of the number of frames you're getting. So it's moving right now really slow. So let's add another 0 to it and just save this. Now it should work normally. If you play, we can check it out. By the way, guys, there's some construction going on below my floor, so I'm sorry for the disturbance if you're getting any. So yeah, you can see it's moving moving at a much better speed. So the next thing what we're going to do is we're going to finally check for inputs and add some controls to our player, which is when we press the D key, our player is going to move towards the right, and when we press the A key, it's going to move towards the left. So we're going to use, first of all, to check the input, we do it this way. We use the if statement. Okay, so if anyone does not know what an if statement is, I'll just explain it to you really quickly. It's basically a sort of function which checks if the condition that is written inside the brackets, if the condition is true, then and only then the code written between these curly brackets would run. Okay, so we're going to, the condition which we are going to use is input dot get key, and in the bracket we write D. Now what this is, basically it checks for the key which we are pressing down, and if the key is D, then this will be true and hence the function will run. The if statement would be true and the code which we have written inside this, it will run. So Now let's add the force, which will make our player move towards the right. Okay, so we're going to copy this, just paste it over here, and instead of adding force on the z-axis, if you see, like currently this z-axis is being moved, like we added force to the forward z-axis, right? That's why it was moving forward. Now we need to add on it on the right, which is the x-axis. So we write 0 over here, and let's say, I guess 300 sounds good, into time dot delta time. So we are adding towards the right. Yeah, one more thing I like to point out over here, that these values, these parameters are of float type. Okay, so only decimal values can this is basically built for decimal values as well as integers. So, but the thing is, if you use decimal values over here, say 0.1, okay, so you can see a red line over here because we haven't told the computer that this is a float value. So it's always advisable to write f after after the number you are writing. So we will replace this with 500f, this with 300f, 0f, and 0f. It's a good practice because it will help avoid errors, you know. So if we this is for the right movement, and we're going to do the same thing for the A key to move the player left. So we can just replace this with A and add a negative sign over here. So this is obvious because we want to add force on the opposite side, okay? So hence we have added a negative sign over here. So if we save this, go back to the editor, and let's make this a bit wide, you know, because we have now started the horizontal movement. There you go. And if we play this, so it is moving forward, but if I press D, you can see it's moving right, and on pressing A, it's moving left. Actually, let me make the camera at a better location so you can see it. Yeah, there we go. And you can see clearly, it's working perfectly actually. Now the next step, okay, wait a minute. So it's now today's lecture is actually you can grasp this lecture much better if you just follow along. Okay, so guys, please follow along. I can wait for a minute or two if you want to just catch up with what we have done till now. I'll even open the script. So just check this script out, this reference we have created, and all this code. So please follow along and write this code down, okay? And if you have any doubt, just ask in the chat box. So I'm waiting for a minute. Just check this code out, write it, and try to run your player. You can also unmute and ask if you have any doubts.
Sir, can you please show the code again?
Yeah, 1 second. What is the use of f? Okay. This, as I explained it to you, these values we are entering, right? These are all supposed to be float values, okay? So float means decimal values. It can accept both decimal and whole numbers, or integers, I mean, sorry. So the thing is, if we simply write, let's say 0.1, okay, it shows an error. You can see by this red line, because I'll tell you this once again, that the computer, the editor does not know that this is a decimal value, okay. So in order to tell, yeah, this is a decimal value and we are using the float type, so in order for that, we just write f in front of the number to tell it that, yeah, this is a float value. So this will avoid all the errors. Any other doubts?
Sir, how is this file connected to Unity software?
Visual Studio. See that when you install Unity, so it automatically installs it is important you install the Unity with the method we wrote in the docs. So it comes inbuilt with the Unity. So the Unity software uses this Visual Studio Code in order to use scripts. Okay, तो लाइक आप कोड वगैरह कुछ लिखोगे तो फिर C# में हम जैसे लिख रहे हैं यहाँ पे, so this Unity is automatically like connected to this Visual Studio in which we write our code and which is run by the editor.
So like we added a rigid body component to our game object. In a similar fashion, we add another component which is called the script. So
Yeah.
that is how the both things are connected. I hope your doubt is clear now.
Yeah, like this component you see, this script, okay. So
This
I
is a
did this
added
yesterday.
component.
Yeah, I did this yesterday that I added this component called player movement. You can, if you haven't done it, you go over here, add component, and just select a new script of just type the script name, okay, which you want. Like I wrote player movement over here. So I've currently made the script, hence it's showing right now. The other way is you can just click on this new script and it will create the script for you.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so I hope you have all done it over here. So the next thing which we are going to do is we are going to create we are actually having not an issue, but there's some inconvenience going on with us, which is that if let's say if we feel our player is moving a bit faster, so you may want to adjust the value of the force you're adding. Let me make it 0. Yeah. So you may want to adjust the value. So in order to do that in our current state, what we have to come back to the script, open it, then change the value, just save it, then run it again. So it's a tedious task and it is time consuming. We don't want that. So to fix this issue, what we do is we create variables. Okay, I'm pretty sure you are like you're familiar with the variables since you're first year students, your first semester is going on. So we are going to create public variables so that they are available to the editor, and we are going to use float data type. And for forward speed, for the amount of force being added to the player so that it moves forward, we can name it as, I guess, forward speed. And we can give it a default value for this. I'm going to give it 300F. Again, the F is, I wrote F so that it knows that it's a float value. And we're going to add a sideways speed, which is, I guess, 500 to make it feel a bit smoother. And we're going to replace this value with forward speed. And this value with side speed. And this value, except for the negative sign, we're going to replace with side speed again. Because we want the side speed to be the same on the both of the sides, okay? So that's why one variable for both of these values. So now if we save it and go back to the editor, we can see in our player movement script that now we have unlocked 2 more components, you can say, or sorry, properties that that can be used to adjust these forward speed and side speed values. So you can just go and edit it on your own. So say like 400. Right now I'll leave it for 300. I'll make this, let's say, 700. So you can edit this on your own, and you can also use this slider which will appear if you just hover your mouse cursor next to this. So if I play it, you can see now the new values feel much better, and you can also like adjust this to, let's say, if I make it 10, you can see it's going really slow. But no, just look at over here, okay, just look at this forward speed's value. When I come out of the play mode, you can see it reverts back to 300. This is because if you make any change in your values in the editor while in the play mode, it will be only a temporary change while you are inside the play mode. As soon as you come out of the play mode, the value will revert back to what it was before you press the play button. So I always advise you to always change your values outside the play mode, never while running the game. Okay, so we have done this. So kindly do like follow along and add this these two variables to our script. This is the script. You can just check it out real quick. Okay, so let's move on. Any doubts, I guess?
सर गेम्स हमेशा सी शार्प को यूज करके ही बनेंगे इसमें?
हाँ, we will use C# only. मतलब I guess you can also use JavaScript, but like most of it's like I don't think that anyone does that. Mostly C# is used for Unity, but other languages like C++ are used in different game engines, like Unreal Engine. See, this Unity is a game engine, okay, which and C# is mainly used in this with this editor.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so let's move on. I apologize if we're moving too fast because actually we have to cover a lot today. So still, it's best to ask your doubts. That's the best way to cover as much as possible while maintaining the speed. Okay, so the next thing what we are going to do is adding the jump. Now this will be a bit more, slightly more complicated, but it's nothing to really worry about because, and it's really important as well because almost every game uses jump, honestly. So let's, the syntax is actually quite similar. Only a few changes I'll show you. So let's just copy this and paste it next to it. Now to add jump, the changes we need to do over here is first of all this. Instead of get key, we will use get key down. And the button, the key which we are using is already, you can use any key of your choice. I'm going to use space. So the difference between the get key down and get key is like, जब भी आप get key use करोगे, it will check कि जब तक आपने वो बटन या फिर की दबा रखा है तब तक वो रिटर्न ट्रू करेगा वैल्यू को. Okay, so like whenever while I pressed down D, till then it will return true. Okay, now excuse me. Yeah, so get key down, the difference is that get key down only returns true once you have pressed it. Okay, like जब भी आप D press करोगे, for example space press करोगे, तो जैसे ही आप press करोगे तब true आ जाएगा. अब it does not matter for if you like hold it down or release it. It will just return true once to give the editor information. Yeah, you have pressed it once. Okay, so obviously we do that because once we press space, we want it to we want the force to be added only once, so it jumps, So we are going to add the force on the y-axis, obviously this time, and let me create another variable for the jump. Public float and jump force. I think it will be way more appropriate, and I'll go with 500F. And I'm going to replace this with jump, jump force. There we go. Okay, so one thing I'd like to tell you right now, we are not going to use time.delta time over here. Okay, so the reason is that if we use time.delta time, you will notice that you will get inconsistent jumps. So that is because that this get key down is only detecting the input once. Okay. Now, unlike get key, which like every frame is checking if it's pressed, the key is pressed or not. It's just only checking once. So we don't need that, time dot delta time. In fact, the time dot delta time becomes a trouble. So it's a bit more complex thing to explain. But if you really want to like know it, the reason to its depth, I would suggest you can just go to Unity. It's Unity help site. I forgot the name, but you can just Google why the jump is inconsistent with time to delta time. It will help you because it's, I don't honestly, we don't have that much time, but I give the best explanation possible for it right now so that you can understand it. So don't use time to delta time with jump force. To get consistent, just leave it like this only, like consistent jumps. So if we save this and run, we can jump now and consistently as well. So, but the issue over here is that there is no limit to the jump. So if I press space and press space again, it's just jumping infinitely. Okay. So we do not want that at all. We only want a player to jump once. So the way to do that is that the logic which we are going to use is this player can only so we have to make it so that this player can jump only when it is at the ground level. Okay, so let's say it's jump once we press space, so it has to come back to the ground in order to jump again. So we have to check collision between the player and the ground in order to make it jump again. So in order to do that, we are going to use a new function. Please make sure you're outside of void update because this is a new function. And it is called void on collision enter. And in the brackets, we write the its argument is collider. Sorry, not collider, collision. And you can choose any variable name, but conventionally I personally use other. So this is the syntax of on collision enter. Please make sure that you're using like the capital C and capital O and capital E over here because C# is like it's case sensitive. Okay, so on collision with the small c won't work. So make sure you have written exactly this. Now I'll tell you a bit about this, how this works. So whenever this checks that whenever our player has collided with anything in a game, like in our game, right? So if I play this and if I press space and we have made contact with the ground, so at that particular moment, this function would run. Okay, and now what this collision other is, this other what basically means is this on collision enter is getting applied to our player. Okay, so it's checking player's collision with other game objects. So whichever game object our player collides with is basically stored as other. Okay, so if we so basically if it collides with this floor, so it will return the other will be used to represent this floor. Now before I move forward, I need to introduce you to tags. So tag is a pretty self-explanatory word, so it's basically used to categorize some game objects. So if I click this using the drop down, you can see there are several predefined tags. So we can select the tag player for this. It's not necessary, but for our convenience. Okay, but what's necessary over here is that when we click on ground, we need to select a tag that that can represent this ground. Okay, you will see why I'm making a new why I'm assigning a tag to this ground in a minute. So we are going to create a new tag. The way to do this is we go on this drop down, and the lowermost option is add tag. We click on that. We get this tags, and currently the list is empty. So we can create new user defined tags over here. The way is we go over here, click on plus, and the new tag name we can write, I guess, ground. So we have added a ground. Now we have to assign this tag. To do that, we just click on the drop down, and we can see we have got a new tag over here called ground. So we can just select it. Now the ground has the ground tag. Okay. Please note carefully that I've used small g over here. Okay. Okay. So in order to check that our player has collided with the floor, we're going to use the if condition again. And inside the brackets, the condition which we'll be using is that other dot game object dot tag is equal to ground. Okay, so I'll explain it a bit. So we're checking that the game objects, which means like the other, right? So I've told you that if the player collides with the ground, so the ground game object is being stored in this, and we are accessing the tag of the game object. So this is the way, this is how you access the game objects tag. So this thing is returning the value of the tag assigned to the game object. Over here it's small ground, okay, with a small g. So this is the way to equate, to check the condition in if statement. Okay, so we use double equal to sign, if you don't know this already. So it is checking if this value is true, then only then the code will run. Okay, so what we're going to do is check for if the player has touched the ground. For this, we're going to use another variable which will be of Boolean type. Okay, Boolean is basically a data type which can hold a value either true or false. So I'm going to write bool and on ground is equal to false. Okay, so I've given this value by default false. Notice I have not written public over here because we don't want our on ground value to be edited by the user in the editor like this. Okay, because we have made sure that this is only editable inside the script. So when this condition is being true, so all we need to do is set on ground as true. Similarly, we need to add a condition over here as well, so that once we press space, it furthermore checks one more condition, that if the player is in air or is it on ground. The way to do is use double ampersand sign. It's basically and, so it checks it is used to check multiple conditions. So is on ground. So if the value of on ground is true and the space is present is pressed once, only then this will run. So if we save this, and one more thing, we also need to set on ground as false. This is due to, like, once the force is added, the player is in the air. So we have to tell the editor that yeah, we are inside air, we are in air. So set this on ground is false. So if we have saved this, it is compiling, and if we play this now, we can see we can only jump once, no matter the number of times I press this. Okay, so we have completed the jump movement as well. Here's the script. Just take a look at this one, and once again, if you have any doubts, just ask. So I hope you guys have done till now, like whatever we have done, and you have implemented the jump, I hope. अगर आपको अभी भी कोई doubts हैं regarding this jump function we have done, just ask. Or I'll just move forward if I have no doubts.
किसी को भी कहीं पे स्क्रिप्ट करने में इशू आ रहा है, let us know, we will help you out.
So I assume you have no more doubts because you're not asking. Okay, so let's just move forward then. So we have successfully implemented the player movement. Okay, so let's once more test it, like if you want to change the values or something. So change the values according to your own feel. Okay, so I feel that this feels actually right, like this, it feels good. But if you think that if anything moving a bit slower, so you can increase or decrease the value. Okay, so our next task would be that currently we are saying that the camera is just fixed at one position. We clearly do not want that. We want our camera to move along with our player, just like in other games. So we are going to do that. So our first step would be just go to the main camera on the inspector, and we are going to create another script called follow camera. To do that, just click on add component, type follow camera, and create the script. Double click it to open. Okay, so what we're going to do over here is each frame we will check the position of the player, and we will let the camera know that we will let the camera know where exactly the player is at that frame, and we will use this logic so that the camera can move alongside the player. So we know that in a game like, especially like Subway Surfers, the camera is a bit behind and above. Okay, so we are going to try to achieve that setting. So first of all, in order to access the position of the camera, I mean not the camera, the player, we will access its transform. Why? Because the position property is inside the transform component. So we are going to, just like we created the reference for the rigid body, we are also going to create a reference for transform. So if we go to the follow camera script and create the transform reference by public component name, which is transform, and we can name this as, I guess, target. So we have created the reference for target. Let's go and assign it. So we have got an empty slot for transform. So what is our target over here is, it is the player. So we can click on this player and drag it to our target. So automatically it will access the transform component of the player, because we have declared the reference as transform type.
Can you repeat this?
Okay, so what? Okay, so do you know what the references are, right? Like we did the rigid body. Okay, so we have done this a similar thing over here. We have created a reference for the transform so that we can access the position of the player. Okay, because it contains the position of the player inside the word. So we are accessing this transform component by making a reference inside the script this way, public, and the component name we are referring to, that is transform, and the variable name, which is the target. So by doing this in the main camera, we have we've got a slot for the target. So if I do it again, so we have got this empty slot as transform. So in order to assign this reference, what we simply need to do is drag this player game object over here. So this automatically gets the access to the transform component of the player. This is because we have declared the reference as transform type. So it can't access any other value like rigid body or sphere collider. Only transform it can access. So I hope that is clear to you.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, okay. So we have created the reference and we are going to use this. So we want we want the updated position of the player. So the method to do this, and like we need to assign the position of the player to the camera as well. So the way we are going to do is we're going to create we're going to type transform dot position is equal to target dot position. Now you may feel a bit confused. I'll explain it to you. First of all, we have used this small t over here, okay? Because we are not like we are not accessing the component. We are just accessing the property called transform, which is used to access things like position. Okay, so small t transform dot position. So this is used to access the position. Once again, I'll repeat. So now we are setting the value of the transform of the camera. Okay, so we are setting the value of the position of the camera to the target dot position. Notice that I have not written target dot transform dot position. This is due to because the target is already defined as transform, so we don't need to tell the editor that this is a transform type, which we have done over here. So we have just assigned the position of the target to the camera. So if we save this and run, you will see that the camera is in a weird position, but it moves left and right. This is because currently the position of the main camera and the player is exactly the same. So we need to create an offset in order to get a good view of the game. Okay, so the way to do that is we have to create a vector3 and offset. So this is the way to declare the vector3, which is a data type which holds 3 values. Which, as you can see, it's written over here. It's a representation of 3D vectors and points. So it stores 3 values, x, y, and z. Basically it is used currently it is being used to store the coordinates. Okay. So the way to add an offset is, and like to assign the vector3 a value is, we write it as new vector3, and let's go with 0f. We need it above the player, so 2f, and behind the player, so we'll go with minus 5f. So you don't need to really worry about this new operator. It's basically you'll learn it, I guess, in the second semester. I'm not sure actually, but just for now, learn that this is the way you can assign value to the vector3. Okay, so we have assigned 0 f to the x, 2f to the y, and negative 5 to the z. All we need to do is now add this offset to the transform position of the camera. So let's say after 5 seconds, the player's position is, let's say in the world it is 0f, 2f, 0f, 0f, and let's say 50f. So the transform position of the camera, or the position of the camera, will be this value plus the offset. Over here it's minus 5. So let's say if it is at 50f in the z-axis, so we'll add minus 5 to it. So the camera's position will be 50 minus 5, which is 45. So also you can only add the vector3 because this also returns the vector3 type only. Okay. So if we save this and we play this, so you can see it's clearly at a you're getting a good view for this. So let's adjust the value for this, I guess. We'll make it -6 and this should be good. Yeah, there we go. So we have successfully created a script for the camera to follow the player, and finally a game is looking much more like a game. So I'll
Okay,
show you
Samad,
this.
sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Okay, basically when Samad added the offset, the camera went from first person perspective to third person perspective. That's a more simpler way of explaining the same thing that Samad just did by adding the offset.
Yeah, perfectly. Like if you add no offset, the game would look like a first person game. But if you add an offset, it will look like a third person game.
Okay, if we have taken a pause little here, so we can ask the doubts. Any doubts to anyone regarding the script or anything in the game? Okay, then let's continue.
Yeah, okay. So we have done two things. We have added a player movement and we have added a camera follow. So let's finally add the trains, okay? Because we are making a service of a game. So हमें अब train डालना पड़ेगा इसमें. तो फिर using this when we add trains, I'll introduce to another very important concept of Unity, which is prefabs. Okay. So first of all, let's create sort of a section for the train, because you know like how a train looks like. It's made of multiple sections. So to do that, let's add another 3D object cube, and let's just reset this. Oh, just control that. Like if anything weird happens, just press Control and Z, it will undo. So I was actually selected at ground. That's why when I reset it, it went away. So we're going to reset this. So if we bring it up, so you can have a much better look at this. You don't really have to reset it, but it's my habit, honestly. So we're going to scale it to look like a train. Let's see from this perspective. So yeah, we'll adjust its height. That's a bit tall, I guess. Yeah, no, that's fine. We'll make the width a bit wider. Basically, just adjust it to your own convenience and however you feel that, like, yeah, this is a train. So I'll do that this myself as well. We have got a section of the train with us. So let's first of all rename this as section. Now what we're going to do, we first of all, you know what, let's organize our asset folder real quick. So we're going to create folders for this. The way to do is just right click on the asset window, go to create and folder. So we'll create one for scripts. We'll create one for I guess prefabs, no, materials, and one for prefabs as well. So let's drag scripts to script folder and the material to material. And then let's create our first prefab. So you can see this section we have made. So we are going to make this section game object into a prefab. So the way to do is, if we drag this over here, so it becomes a prefab. You can see it became of the color blue, right? So this indicates that this is a prefab. Now, what basically a free prefab is, it's sort of a saved setting for a game object, which can whenever you change anything in the prefab, like it changes its setting throughout the game. Like if you have the same same game object, like this section has a duplicate. So we have two section game objects, right, with the same origin of prefab. So basically इन दोनों का prefab section ही है. तो फिर this is prefabs are mostly useful when you have multiple game objects or have the same game object in the different scenes. So like I'll show you an example so you'll understand what basically it is. So let me create another material. Material is material. There we go, and I'll name it red. This is the red color. Now see the difference, okay? If I just click on just drag this to this game object, yeah, it will become red. But the advantage of prefabs is that if we make any change in the prefab mode, then it gets applied to all the game objects with the origin prefab if the origin prefab is the same. So for example, to come in the prefab mode, either you just double click this or just click on this arrow key on the side of the prefab. If you click this, now you can see you're in the prefab mode. So I'll apply this material to this prefab. If we just drop it over here and come back from the prefab mode, we can see it is applied to this as well. So any change you do in the prefab, it automatically gets applied to all the game objects and which contain the same prefab origin. Like all of them get changed. So let's proceed to create our train. So we're going to make one more section, I guess. Yeah, there we go. So we have three sections with us. Now I'm going to create a empty game object. Okay, the way to do is easy. Just right click and just click on create empty, and we'll name it as train. Now I'll explain why I've done what an empty game object is. So basically, an empty game object is sort of like a folder which you can save your game objects in. Okay, so first of all, let's reset. Yeah, do this first. When you click on the empty game object and click on reset so that it comes back to the origin. Now what we're going to do is select all these sections and just drag all of them on this train game object. So it's like we have a folder train which contains all these components which can be accessed as a whole in just by clicking on train. Okay, so I'd like to create a prefab of this train as well. I'll tell you why in a bit. So the way to do is just click on this train and bring it over here. Go to prefab mode, and what I want you to do is just select all the sections. Click on these three dots over here in the transform. Just select reset position. Okay, not reset. You want to select reset position so that all of them just come in one place. Now what I'm going to do is select these and make it look like a train. And there we go. We have something that looks like a train. It looks really nice to me. So we have successfully created a train prefab. Okay, you may see that it has come inside the ground because the train object is at the origin. So we'll fix that. Just bring it over here. I guess, yeah. Bring it down a bit. There we go. So the reason I've done this, that I've created this train game object empty, is so that we can just instead of creating this section again and again and arranging them again, we can just create one sort of game object that we can duplicate, and the same thing will appear again. So we're going to do this. So it's time to make a level finally. Okay, so we're going to arrange several stationary trains first of all. So we'll duplicate this train by Control plus D. So we have made another train. Move it a bit differently, and the best way to do this is just, if you see this in the top right corner, these directions Y, X, and Z. So these are basically the views. So we are going to the Y view, and we're going to arrange this in this way. So we're going to press Control D and create a bunch of trains. Yeah, let's do this. Yeah, this much is fine, I guess. Let's actually extend the ground. I pressed T for the rectangle tool, bear in mind, so I can edit the ground. And I basically extended it, on this side. So we have 5 trains with us. Lovely. So we have learned how to make a prefab. Any doubts about prefabs? If there are any doubts about prefabs, I really need you all to ask about them, because prefab is a really important concept for Unity. So are there any doubts?
Guys, it's 7:35 already. We will be wrapping up soon. It's better you ask your doubts.
Yeah, we will do like one more task, which will take about 5 minutes, then we'll wrap up. Okay, so let's move on, I guess, if you have no doubts. The final thing which we'll be doing over here is like, we're going to add, like, I did this train a bit. I can't really explain it to you right now. You'll see, just follow along and you'll understand. Okay, so currently each of these sections have their own box colliders. Okay, we don't want that for a particular reason, which I'll tell you tomorrow. For now, let's just remove the box colliders from this and add a box collider to the whole train on its own. Okay, so the way to do that is, this is why the prefab mode is really interesting. We can just come on this prefab mode on this train, and we can go on furthermore on this section prefab and just disable this. You don't need to delete it, just disable the box colliders. So basically they have no box colliders. You can see the result in this as well. If you play it, you can see the player simply goes through it because there are no box colliders. Yeah, I also just noticed right now the trains are a bit small, so we'll adjust that as well. But first what we'll do is that we're going to add just one box collider on the train. Yeah, we can add components on the empty game object as well. So we're going to add a box collider. So you can't really see the box collider right now. The way to do is go on edit collider. So if you just press this button, which is the edit collider, and click on this, you can see you have this the square inside your train. So the task over here will be making the shape of this box collider as same as the train. Okay, so it's really simple. Just go on this small green squares to adjust each of the faces. Okay, so I'll make it like this, that it all comes just at the level of this face. So I'll do the same for this face and this face. There you go. And the lower and bottom face as well. And again for this. Make sure, like, especially for the upper part of the box collider, make sure you're not like going to outside of the train. Okay, just drag this a bit down. There you go. So we're going to extend this length as well. Yeah, and there we go. So we have successfully created a box collider for this. And so we have just one box collider, okay, instead of many of them. Yeah, and please make sure that you have disabled all the box collider or the trains will behave really weird. Okay, so we'll also just add the rigid body to it. To this section, not the train. Okay, you go to this section prefab mode and just go and add a rigid body. The next thing what we are going to do is, if you go on the one thing is that if we add a rigid body, fine, the player will collide with it. But the thing is, we do not want a train to move left or right when it's crashing with the player. We want it fixed because it's just moving forward. So the way to add a constraint to the player is, we go to the rigid body component and go to constraints, and we can just check these rotations and positions. So we do not want the train to move on x-axis and rotate. In fact, we do not want the train to rotate at all. We just want to freeze it on y as well. It's just free to move on the z-axis. So that's all we needed to do today. So we can just test it out. And you can see it is colliding it with it, and it's so like the controls are a bit weird, like it's jumping too high. That we can just make the trains, we're going to make the trains a bit higher. So you do it yourself, like make the train sections higher. The way to do is go on section prefab mode and just go scale it a bit larger, So that's it for today. One thing you'll notice, one last thing, that when you go on top of the train, right, you cannot jump. So the reason I'll explain tomorrow. So if you guys have any doubts or you want to ask anything, you can just stay and you can ask. The others of you, like, you can, I guess, leave. So any doubts? I stop presenting. You can ask your doubts.
So guys, we expect you to follow along and keep up with today's work. And moreover, you had been given a task yesterday for the domino challenge. I hope you are working on that too. We are expecting to see some great videos from you all. After you are done, please share it on the group. Okay. And if you have any doubts regarding today's or yesterday's section explanations, please let us know. We'll clear it out, or you guys can leave. Guys, if you have no doubts, you may leave. You stay back and we'll clear it out.
सर
Yes.
सर जैसे वो डोमिनो चैलेंज जो था उसकी हमें वीडियो बनानी है, तो सर वो मतलब उसमें जो प्ले करते हैं तब तो उसमें दिखता है, तो वो जो वीडियो हमें किसी मतलब थर्ड पार्टी ऐप डाउनलोड करके हमें स्क्रीन रिकॉर्ड करना पड़ेगा, या फिर उसमें ऑप्शन है यूनिटी में कि एक्सपोर्ट कर सकते हैं वीडियो ऐसा कुछ?
So okay, you have a laptop. You have Xbox Game Wire in your laptop. Of course, if you are using Windows, then you will have it. If it's enabled, you can screen record it through that. You don't need to download any third-party software.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
No issues. Any help? Anyone else? Any doubt?
If you have no doubts, you can leave, guys. If you have doubts, you can stay and ask.
सर बाद में आप हमें इसमें मतलब कैरेक्टर्स वगैरह भी डालना सिखाओगे, जैसे बड़े बड़े गेम्स में डलते हैं।
अभी कैरेक्टर्स तो डलवाना सिखाएंगे नहीं अभी, क्योंकि वो थोड़ा कॉम्प्लेक्स वो होता है, लाइक उसमें आपको एनिमेशन वगैरह करनी होती है, तो वो लाइक अभी हम सिखाएंगे नहीं। पर अगर आपको सीखना है तो फिर आप ना लाइक आप कहते हैं मेरे को आप पर्सनल मैसेज कर दो, मैं आपको लाइक एक वो भेज दूंगा वीडियो, उससे आप देख के कर दो, और आपको उससे रिलेटेड कोई हेल्प होगी तो मैं आपको बता दूंगा। और लाइक हम एक चीज सिखाएंगे, लाइक यूनिटी एसेट स्टोर एक चीज होती है, तो उससे आप इंपोर्ट कर सकते हो एसेट्स, तो फिर लाइक आप वो उससे आप ये कैरेक्टर्स भी इंपोर्ट कर सकते हो, तो वो तो हम बताएंगे कि कैसे इंपोर्ट करते हैं। तो पर अभी इस वर्कशॉप में तो वो करना तो अभी सिखाएंगे नहीं, कैरेक्टर्स का मूवमेंट वगैरह।
ओके सर। सर आप मेन ग्रुप में हो कि मतलब एडमिन हो?
मैं मेन ग्रुप पे हूँ।
गेम डेवलपमेंट की मतलब मैसेज करना हो?
हाँ, हेल्प डेस्क पे हूँ मैं, तो आप उस पे कुछ पूछना हो तो आप ग्रुप पे मैसेज कर देना।
ओके सर, थैंक यू।